Hello everyone, my name is Tom Senior. I am the web editor of PCGamer.com, and I'm joined today by Cloud Imperium Games, who are going to talk about Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I'm really excited because it's about space, and probably the biggest space game in development. Has to be, hasn't it? These guys were here last year, and they're back to update us on how development is going. And we're going to start off with Carl, who can hopefully give us a little bit of an update.
Hi everyone, my name's Carl Jones. I'm COO of Cloud Imperium Games. So we've been working very hard on Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I'm joined here by my colleagues from Foundry 42 here in the UK. All these guys are very senior in our game design department, and they'll be answering some questions later on about game design and what we're doing within the game right now. So Star Citizen, as you probably know, falls into two main parts. We have our persistent universe, which is our space MMO, Star Citizen itself, and then we have Squadron 42, which is our big narrative single-player game. So we're working away on both of these. We are very excited to say we just released yesterday our latest update for Star Citizen Online, so that's 2.6.1. In 2.6, just at the end of last year, we introduced a bunch of new flyable ships, some new missions and areas for people to play in, but also our big release, which was Star Marine, our first-person shooter mode. 2.6.1 fixes some issues and optimizes some of that gameplay. We've enhanced the great Super Hornet ship. It's the newest version of that ship. We have some interesting features like mega maps, which really increases your loading time. And we also now have multi-region servers, so it'd be much quicker to get a game and you get much better performance when you're playing online. So that just came out yesterday, and actually for this weekend, it's free to play. So if you want to try it out, if you haven't tried Star Citizen, just need to go to our website, robertspaceindustriescom, and there's a code you use called Share the Love. It's part of our Valentine's Day promotion, and you can try Star Citizen for free this weekend. But to give you a better idea of what Star Citizen is, in case you don't know, I think we have a little video that we can run where Chris Roberts, our CEO, will be able to tell you all about the game.
Star Citizen is an epic first-person experience spanning hundreds of solar systems where players can fly highly detailed spaceships, battle on foot through massive space stations, explore life-size planets, and discover adventure in an ever-expanding and changing galaxy. It's the game I've always dreamed of making, and with a community of over 1.6 million, we are well on our way to making the dream a reality. Star Citizen is currently in alpha, which means we are still creating the technology and designs that will allow the game to come to life. Since game development can take years, we are inviting those who have backed the game to help provide feedback throughout the process. We have broken the game down into several modules to release to the community to provide early testing. If you have a Star Citizen game package, you can start playing today. Arena Commander is a dogfighting and racing simulator that lets players test out flight mechanics. Our FPS game mode, Star Marine, puts players in head-to-head ground and EVA combat. The biggest module is the Persistent Universe, known commonly as the PU. You can fly solo or crew up your ship with your friends to explore dogfighting ships or battle on foot. This represents the first glimpse of what will ultimately be the massive multiplayer Star Citizen universe. So what happens from here? Well, we're continuing expanding the PU by adding more planets and even more star systems to explore. Our new dynamic mission system will allow players to choose their own path in the universe, from bounty hunters to space pirates, traders, mercenaries, miners, explorers, and many more. As all these new pieces begin to fall into place, the universe of Star Citizen will really start to come together. But even then, it will only still be the start.
Without victory, there can be no survival!
We're also hard at work on Squadron 42, a separate single-player experience set inside the universe of Star Citizen that will put you face-to-face with an unbelievable cast.
Fire up!
Star Citizen is an ambitious game. We're working tirelessly to build a fully immersive experience where players will be able to have the adventures of a lifetime. One universe that can be a home for all gamers. One that will continue to grow and evolve. And we're thrilled to have you all along for the ride. And I'll see you in the verse.
Nice. Fantastic. Thank you, Carl. We're going to get a bit deep into this. And first, I'll introduce the rest of the panel here with me. So we've got Simon Vickers, lead level designer for Squadron 42. Luke Presley, lead designer on Star Citizen Live. We've got Sean Noonan, senior designer for Star Marine. And Will Maiden, systems designer for Star Citizen. And Simon, we'll start with you. You're working on the single-player component, the Squadron 42 campaign. And of course, you have this enormous, vast kind of universe to play with. Where do you start with creating a kind of single-player experience?
Usually from just like a blank and empty space, and then you stare into it, and then you go, "Oh my God, space is huge. How am I going to make this fun?" So, fortunately, we've got the PU stuff that Carl mentioned beforehand, and Luke's been working on, which is where we are testing all our systems. It's the kind of first version of the final game and all this kind of stuff, and the joy of having like you guys playing all this kind of stuff alongside us, we can watch you playing it with kind of things, and these scenarios come along. You start to see how people naturally encounter these spaces. These are designed to be open and for people to put their own impressions onto. And generally, it's kind of like we see what people find fun, what they engage with, what they ignore, things like that, and we can go, right, we can build scenarios using these kind of things. Really exciting kind of ways of leveraging the mechanics that are usually quite open. We can kind of twist and contort into our own exciting, more detailed scenarios that we can kind of create narratives with and have Mark Hamill running around and stuff like that, which is really cool. Yeah,
you mentioned Mark Hamill. Of course, we saw Gary Oldman there as well. The star power in your game is pretty daunting. What's it like creating a universe where you know like Luke Skywalker is going to be walking around with Dana Scully and all those great Hollywood people?
Yeah, you just got to. Yeah, I mean, most of the level designers working on Squadron are actually quite lucky enough to get it sent down to Imaginarium Studios just around the corner, where we did all the motion capture for the entire campaign, and it meant that you got to meet people like Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and Dana Scully, and all that kind of thing, and they're people that you kind of grow up with as kind of like icons as your childhood, and things like that. Like you may be playing around with action figures and stuff like that, and then suddenly they're actually there, and you're using them like action figures, running around your levels that you've built, and it's surreal but exciting at the same time. Yeah.
Did you all get selfies?
Oh yes, yes.
Right.
I got selfies, and that's all I care about. Well,
of course, there's already a lot of Star Citizen is playable in a lot of different forms, be it just in your FPS modules or your various other modules. So it'd be interesting to focus in on Luke. You're designing Star Citizen Live. So what is your job? How do you kind of build out the Star Citizen universe? What's your role?
Okay, so we release several times a year, including demos and things. So the live team is a specialized team that works on getting things out quick, dirty, because, I mean, we're a pre-alpha game, so we don't have all the systems and the tech and, everything we intend to have finally, but we do have to simulate that. So, I mean, I have to, like, if the design department was the military, we'd probably be the special forces, because we just have to sometimes do it quickly and dirty. And, and we, I mean, our main role, I suppose, is, well, twofold. First, we have to, we're stress testing the tech and the systems, and we're, at the same time, we've got to keep it fun, got to keep backers, new backers coming in, we've got to keep the backers that are there coming back for more. So, yeah, like, we're a small team. We've just gone up to 6 with Sean joining for Star Marine. So, yeah, our role is pretty intense, to be honest.
Of course, you mentioned Star Marine, which is your first-person shooter kind of component, but it's not just ordinary just corridors. You fight in zero gravity, which of course must requires a different type of discipline when it comes to designing levels. How do you do that?
It's not easy. Basically, trying to think of the best way of really explaining it. We started out with smaller levels that were just kind of, standard first-person areas, and we built around that. We just basically said, this is in space. How can you handle that? And it was just testing, really. It was just kind of working out how the engagement ranges worked within interior spaces, seeing how that would work in an exterior space. And it usually meant that, well, obviously sniping became more important, and we had to kind of balance around that. I mean, 261's just gone out, and that's balancing a lot of that stuff a lot more than we started. So it is just iteration and testing, and we're lucky enough to be able to test our stuff with the players, and update it as it goes out live.
It's interesting having to design a place where the enemy could be upside down and you could be in completely different orientation and designing cover and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't really have a lot of. We don't have a lot of cover yet, but it's the kind of thing we want to build out, similar to the way that in Arena Commander you'll dodge around asteroids and things. We need to start building that sort of stuff out in the future for Star Marine as well, because EVA is definitely something that's working, and it's working well.
Fantastic. So that's just obviously the shooting aspect of a game of many aspects. In fact, some people call it a big sandbox game. And within that sandbox, you're not just killing guys or blowing stuff up. They're also you're trading and mining and that sort of thing. How do you make those sort of more, ordinary interactions feel interesting?
Well, I love cargo. I used to play all sorts of. I played Elite on the old machines, and Euro Truck Simulator. I love making things go from one place to another. When people come and shoot at me, I run away. I'll go solo. I'll do it. I don't want people around me that are shooting me because I want to make sure I get my package from one place to another. So I take that mentality when designing the cargo system to thinking I bet a lot of the other people who are hauling right now don't want to get shot. They want to do something else. They want to just find the quiet part of space and make a quick buck. So a lot of the design for the cargo system is well, what is fun about shipping? It's not getting shot, so I want ways to evade people coming at me. I want to find a way that if I am going to get shot, if I'm going to go through some dangerous space, because sometimes that's the best way to make money in Star Citizen, is to go to the dangerous planet, go to the sketchy part of town, is to give the player a way of well, I don't have too many guns on my ship, so can I hire someone to come and protect me? And if I can do that, then they're going to bring more men. So what do I need? I need a tough crew. I need to do this. So we have this kind of burgeoning escalation, really, where once you've got a guy that's hauling, and you've got pirates that are coming after them, and then you've got mercenaries protecting them, and then you've got bounty hunters that are hunting the pirates that are coming after the cargo guy to begin with. So I'm excited about how cargo leads us to have piracy, and as Chris was saying about mining and other things, but it also has freelance law enforcement, bounty hunters. You've also got mercenaries that I'll protect anyone that needs protecting, and if you've not got the bucks, I'll protect someone else. But then we hope that cargo people have enough money to spread around. So, it's going to be exciting being a cargo pilot. And there's a way for me, as someone who likes playing as a cargo pilot, to protect myself if need be.
So obviously an important part of not getting shot and blown up is seeing guys coming. And of course, I hear, Will, that you've been getting deep into radar systems as part of this back-and-forth sandbox emergent gameplay.
Yeah, the radar system's something that's, it's huge because I think everyone here has it in a different way. The guys in single player have different needs for radar than the guys in the PU, who has a very different need from the guys in multiplayer, in Star Marine, sorry, who has also a very different need than the guys who play it with Arena Commander. When you're dogfighting, you want contacts immediately. As soon as someone comes into your periphery, you need to know about it. You need to have them targeted. When you're on foot, you need to discover things as you're coming. You don't want to know where everything is on the map at all times. When you're in multiplayer, you need to be able to go and hide behind a corner and lay an ambush. And if the other guy can see you, then that's a problem. So designing a system like Radar is really fun. I say fun. Is really tricky in that it serves so many different masters. And on any day, I'll be talking to all 3 of these guys to see what needs doing. And if I put something in, how does it work with something else? Because when you play the single player, it's really your training wheels for getting out into the verse and seeing what you want to do. When you're playing Star Marine, it's really teaching you how to hold your own in the PU. When you're learning how to dogfight, you're learning how to protect yourself in the vastness of space. So we can't add one thing to one form of the design that's going to turn around and not be true in another part of the design. So
you want those transferable skills where you can take...
Yeah, anything you learn in one part of the game is definitely needed in another part of the game. We don't want one rule for one and one rule for another. So yeah, it's a lot of compromise because everything is so vast. It's keeping aware of what's needed and then figuring out the way of like, is this fun for everyone? If I put this in, is it fun for single player? Is it fun for multiplayer? Is it fun for the open universe? Is it fun for closed games? Is it fun for dogfighting? So yeah, a lot of conversation.
You've talked about fast development, and of course talking to the live team about that as well. And everything's happening so fast and kind of, let's face it, so publicly with Star Citizen, because it is this publicly funded game, crowdfunded game, and you're having to put out updates all the time. And this is really kind of a question for all of you. Like, how does it feel to be so exposed to your audience all the time?
Sometimes it's terrifying. Like coming from a very closed studio culture where someone in another part of the country behind an office will tell everyone else what's going on with the game. And now you've got people in this room who potentially know more about parts of the game that I'm not familiar with, that I should be like, hey guys, what's going on with this right now? Because you have your bit and you're looking at it and you're an expert of your bit. So it's really weird sometimes when you have a conversation with someone and they know about what's going on in 2.6.1 and you're like, oh, is that right? Cool, that'll be fun. Like I learned some stuff on the way down that I didn't know before. So it's amazing being able to engage with people that know your game as you're going on, because you don't get to, before you just kind of like, oh, I can't really talk about it. And it's exciting talking to people who know exactly what's going on. And these kind of things are so great because you can talk about what I worked on yesterday. And that's so cool. But I don't know, how about you guys?
I would say from Star Marine's point of view, it's really useful. Like we are able to make, well, we're in a unique situation in that we can make changes to the game. Like we can see how the people who are actually going to be playing the game at the end are actually interacting with it. So we can actually make those changes to the maps. Like at 261, we managed to make some fairly, I would say, big balance changes to some of the maps, and we'll continue to do that in the future. Like we'll just keep iterating on these things, like making balance based on what the feedback we're getting, and we can see it. We see it all the time on Twitch. Like I think most of us all have Twitch windows open on second screens and stuff. Like, and yeah, we interact with the community to know what they're saying, and we see what they're doing, and we get stuff from the issue council as well. I mean, you can probably say more about that. Maybe it's really useful. I've not had this level of I guess transparency in any level design job I've had previously.
Seems like the community is not afraid to be brutally honest with you about things that they would like changed and altered, which must be kind of an interesting relationship.
It's incredible. I mean, as Sean was saying there, we're always watching Twitch, like either lurking and actually hearing what people honestly think, which is extremely useful. Or we can get involved. I've never had that before. I've worked in lots of big studios on games that people cared about, like Harry Potter, Fable, and even like Driver. There was a big community there that we never heard from. We only heard from them when it went out. Like we'd be completely oblivious to anything that they actually were excited about, and then we'd sit there and wait for the score to come in at the end. Whereas here, you guys. You can ask us questions, and more importantly, I think we can ask you questions. And as long as as long as you watch enough to kind of get a balanced opinion from everyone, we can do a lot with that. We do a PTU, which is a public test universe. We put the game out there. and we can make a patch every single day. So I can be working, go home of an evening, watch these guys play it, watch them get to bugs, and say, tell them, I will fix that tomorrow. And I'll go in and I'll fix it tomorrow. And then the next day I'll see them get beyond that. Because we're a huge game. I mean, we couldn't employ enough QA, and we have QA in every single studio across the world, like 24 hours of QA. But it's a huge game, so you just don't find probably half the bugs. If a pair of us didn't watch Twitch as much as we do, yeah, we'd probably miss about half of the bugs.
There just wouldn't be enough time. There wouldn't really be enough time in the day for us to make the game and play it to the extent that the community do. So that amount of playtime will always bring stuff up that we couldn't ever see, really. Like, I mean, we can plan for things ahead, but there's always things that are going to change based on the way people are mixing things up in the world. And I mean, the P2, you get mission ideas from the things that people are doing with, like, moving the. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So, in other studios, like, the only time you would ever get to see people play the game is when you hire a special companies, to do focus groups. So you're kind of behind a one-way mirror watching various expertise of players get really frustrated with your game or not, And I think by then it's mostly too late. Whereas now we can learn from what you're doing, as you were saying there. The Big Benny's machine was the first physicalized prop we put in. Now it's floating around in space. It's a big vending machine, and like, I noticed people were pushing around little boxes, and they were having lots of fun pushing these boxes into the back of their ships. And I thought, screw them. I'll put a giant vending machine in, and I'll put it in a really awkward place, and we'll see if they can get that thing. Like, they have to push it up lift shafts, and they still managed to get the whole way out, and then took it beyond what I was even expecting. Took it all the way back to their base, like. And then pushed it upstairs, against all the physics, through airlocks. So it's just incredible. Yeah, the amount of ideas we get just from watching people role play this game as well. Yeah. Like, it's fantastic.
So there are so many aspects to it, not just the sandbox aspect, but also, of course, Star Marine, Squadron 42. You have so many studios all over the world. LA, Frankfurt, I believe, Austin. Is that correct? Am I missing any? Obviously, in the UK as well, Manchester. How do you guys coordinate that across that amount of space all over the world?
Yeah,
Skype.
Skype. I'd say it was difficult to start with. We had to learn this, but right now we use Skype like we would just get up and go and talk to someone at a desk. And we've got used to that not being odd. Like, when you get a phone call, like, you feel like you're at work and this might, I'm in the middle of something. It was a little bit difficult to get used to. But now you feel like you literally work with them in the same office. And you get into these cadences of, okay, so I know Frankfurt, they're basically on our time. They come in a little later, so they're an hour ahead. I know that Austin will come online around 2, and then LA will come in at 4 o'clock-ish, unless it's Mark Abent, who's in at like 5 o'clock in the morning over there. So you get to know people, and you get to know when to expect them, and it's really not a problem anymore, and we have like Confluence where all of our documents go, so you can, there's always a place to go to find out what you need to, even if that person's away. So, yeah.
Yeah, so some of the demos that we've done before for trade shows and things like that, we're usually working right up until the deadline on those things. Like, we are literally around the clock, because the brilliant thing about having that global studio structure was that you're spanning multiple time zones as well. It's like it can be disadvantageous for like communications at times, but it also means that when you've worked and done your time and things like that, you can sign off, write an email off to a studio which is just waking up, go to sleep, wake up, and they've done the same to you, and you get this really organic kind of nature going on. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it comes along quite naturally.
Fantastic. Well, let's go a little deeper into some of the individual aspects of Star Citizen, starting with Squadron 42, particularly with how the missions are structured. Are you kind of roaming the open world and then find a quest giver, or is it you select a mission on a menu? Just how does the mission unfold in Squadron 42?
Right. Okay. So we're trying to be informed as much by the PU as possible. So if the mechanic exists in the PU, we're using the same or kind of like a very, very slightly tweaked version of that mechanic, because if you can learn it out in the PU, then we can leverage it in really interesting ways. We kind of like leave it up to the player to see how they can approach that kind of thing. So we're trying to come with the same kind of thing. But we also have the kind of affordance of being much more scripted and focused at times. So it's a case of we have these key beats that we need to kind of tell the story and stuff like that. So we can choke point the player into something. We get a big cinematic, a moment to interact with keep bringing up Mark Hamill because I'm slightly Star Trek. We chat with him, and then it's back out into an open thing. I mean, Squadron 42 is based in a location that could be in the PU, and we follow the same rules as the PU just to make sure it's consistent. We're just adding context to the world, essentially.
So talking of the PU or the persistent universe, how are you going to evolve as a player over time as you kind of live out your space life?
There will be multiple factions, many factions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last show of the day, Wargaming Labs, starts at 5:30. Hear about how they are supporting the indie scene and how you can get involved. That's the PC Gamer stage at 5:30.
Yeah, so that's it. Yep.
That's good. Great answer. Great answer.
All these factions, and you will have kind of what's the word?
Loyalty?
Relationships with them. Yeah, kind of reputation. There we go. That's the word. So you can basically. Yes. Come on, a word. So you can build up reputations with almost mutually exclusive kind of things. You have to pick paths. You're doing something for someone else, or just becoming a criminal will make a whole bunch of people not want to work with you. Everyone's going to have a different standing with these people, have a different set of missions that are going to be available to them. Create your own story. I mean, the amount of role-playing that goes on in this game, the freedom it gives you to do that. The PU, which we keep talking about, it's very, very sparse at the moment, content-wise. And yet, we have a kind of abandoned space station there. It's a security station. And I watch people role-play being the security guards there, kind of thing. And they, anyone who comes near it, they demand papers from. Now, papers aren't a thing that exist in this game yet, but they'll command them at gunpoint to kind of sit down on the floor. So they type sit, and the guy kind of sits on the floor, and then they'll go and take his ship and drop it on another pad and search it. So, stories get built.
If they're going to ask for papers that don't exist and then take their ship, isn't that just piracy? It's not really a security thing, is it? That's your job to stop.
Yeah, see, he's got designed the way that actually works,
right.
Which is the tough part. Yeah. Papers. We need papers. So people will build their own story to a certain extent with the orgs and that you've got in there. You don't have to worry about NPC relationships. It's relationships between other players as well. Other organisations. These things are gonna, I honestly believe that those will be the main stories that people will talk about. Not your story.
So one of the things that has really kind of inspired people about Star Citizen and kind of fired up the imagination are the videos you've shown of cameras going from space and zooming down through orbit and down into space stations, and then showing just life in that universe on many different levels, which obviously requires quite a technological feat. And I was wondered, is it harder to work with that tech, or have you gotten used to it as you've kind of worked with it? What's it like now, years on?
Well, the tech is always moving on. That's why it's so difficult actually to create the PU, because you create it in one form of tech, and then this amazing new form of tech comes along, and some of it we can't. I mean, for an example, like the gravity tech we have is incredible. It blows my mind, but we aren't allowed to use it yet, because that kind of tech is for a race that isn't in the game yet. So I'm constantly trying to, but how about if we just did it like this? It's like, no, that's still the human race, and it doesn't have that complex of a set of gravity things. We're very 2D. So I look forward to when we're creating puzzles using all this gravity tech we have. But a map, yeah. So the guys that we've got working on the tech are just incredible. Zooming down from planets to none of that is faked. I mean, I can attest to that, honestly. That you can go you go from a moon to anyone who saw the Gamescom demo where we went from a space station to a planet to a city underground on the planet, back out to a derelict spaceship to a moon. All of that was actually real and in one playthrough. And right now, it all looks 10 times better. The tech just keeps on moving, and it's mind blowing.
So finally, and I think this is probably a good one for Carl, I have to ask, what's next for Star Citizen and Squadron 42?
So we're not going to talk about any dates. But we're working really hard on getting Squadron 42 and Star Citizen move forwards. This year, I think we're going to look to do 2 or 3 major updates. So we'll be adding more locations, more ships, more gameplay. We're definitely going to be bringing jobs in so that you can start actually having missions that are based around your kind of careers and the archetypes you want to play. Those are all going to be parts of the updates as we move through this year. And generally just really trying to pull together the experience closer and closer to what we all know the final Star Citizen experience is going to be. And I think it's going to be really exciting this year. With each incremental delivery we make, you guys will get closer and closer to that final vision. So it's coming, but still be patient, because we're not going to release it until it's ready.
Fantastic. And I think this is a good point to take some questions if you guys are up for that. So I'll pass over the mic, and anyone put your hands up if you want to ask the team a question.
Hey, question, obviously. How much do you look at other space sims and the feedback that they're getting, and how much does that affect the decisions that you make on a game design level?
I think we professionally check out loads of games, not just space games. Obviously, the shooters side of things, we look at a lot of shooters. The tone that we want, I think, for Star Citizen is very different to some of the others. There's a lot of more high sci-fi, kind of high concept sci-fi shooters that we look at. But how they do certain things, how they do radar or cargo, or how they do, how they handle death, things like that. Like, is that a good fit for us, or do we want to go a different way? Like, we want to make sure that however we do it, we put our stamp on it, but also we don't want to discount. If someone's already figured something out, solved something, and it's the kind of the accepted way of doing something, it's like, do we want to break that and change that and go our own way, or is it like, is that cool? So I think we look at lots of things.
Definitely.
Because I think it would be stupid to just put our hands over our eyes and just say, like, no, we know what we're doing. Because obviously we do know what we're doing. But it was arrogant enough to say that only our way is the right way to do things. Anyone else?
Well, just that, like, if other companies and games have gone through research and development and proven things, then they become standards, then we should always, like, at least listen to those things and then incorporate them where we feel that they are most applicable. But it's I think everyone should really do that.
Hi, this is sort of a two-part thing on Star Marine maps. The first time we saw it, there was almost like an Ender's Game sphere in 0G that teams were going to be sort of fighting on. Is that still going to be a thing anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, no. That was a test done by Euphonic, the company we had before. Who was doing the FPS. So that was a kind of 0G. Everyone goes after the ball, and they've all got a kind of gravity gun to pull it along. It worked okay. It wasn't particularly fantastic, and we kind of went back to the drawing board when we got Satterball. Yeah, that's what it was called. We now have our own FPS team who, I think we're going to end up with much better FPS and much better EVA action than where that was heading. Again, pre-alpha, we tend to push things and then rip it up and start again if it was going off in the wrong direction. So, yeah, I don't know if you'll be seeing that anytime soon. You might be seeing kind of an EVA specific FPS map game mode.
Currently what we've got is two maps that approach EVA in quite different ways. Like Upstation Demian has the EVA surrounding it, so it's kind of like you go out there to kind of pick people off who are running between the two main stations, structures within the station. And with Echo, the EVA is entirely in the center, so it's not really a high combat zone. It's basically used to get between points. You can take huge shortcuts in the map. You don't really need to run through what's basically rat runs between points. You can just skip it all. So that's kind of how we're approaching the EVA spaces and maps at the moment. We're just looking for new applications of those mechanics.
Just a second one. The 3.0 demo was obviously that we saw went onto a planet's surface. Is there any technical limitations that mean you couldn't take part of that, put sort of a no-entry dome over the top of it and turn it into a first-person map?
There's no limitation on that. That could happen.
Hey there, guys.
Maybe.
So I'm sort of curious what your thoughts are. You may have seen that Elite is coming out with sort of their multi-crew thing in a couple of weeks into beta, and they've sort of taken a very different approach in terms of sort of instant presence for the sake of easy gameplay ability, whereas you guys have taken sort of a realism approach where essentially multi-crew's there, but if somebody wants to run off with your ship, they can. Have you guys thought of, where are your thoughts on that? Is it entirely 100% realism? Are you thinking in the future there are going to be some sort of balancing aspects to it to say, oh, well, we're going to protect you or make it easier for a friend who's on the other side of the galaxy to join you without having to travel all the way across, things like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I think in Elite you have to physically travel, don't you? You can warp now.
No, I mean you can teleport there.
Oh, very cool.
You just load it from the menu, I think.
I think with Star Citizen in the PU, we don't want to have that kind of instantaneous thing because we're doing so much that's not combat and multi-crew and stuff like that. So we need to be able to get out and walk around. We need to have time be important, especially for traveling. Especially for what stuff I'm looking at with cargo and stuff like that. If there was any way of warping to somewhere else, or is there any way of speeding up travel, that breaks a lot of, it's quick for this guy, but it ruins everything else for other people. So we've kind of got this very, very intricate web of careers and activities that the players can do. And so whilst it would be like, oh yeah, just warp over there, or whilst you could have that instantaneous travel, it's the knock-on effects of that, of just like it cheapens one thing or it cheapens another thing, something that becomes really important. So for other careers and for players who want that. So I think we've just kind of stuck with a quite strict. if you want to go somewhere, you have to physically go get there, and then the journey becomes your story as well. So whilst there's loads of things you can do, the next solar system over there, I mean, we're looking at hundreds of different places to go. But the task of getting there becomes a journey that's well worth making. It's not just the next system is a duplicate of this system with different prices in the market. There's a war going on over here, and there are characters that have got their own troubles, and you can get involved in it, and you might spend months in the same location because I don't need to go somewhere else. I'm stuck in this story, and your story becomes different to the next guy's story because you chose to stay. And I think that's what's exciting about Star Citizen is there's lots of stories going on. It's not just, you don't look at it from a meta thing of like, I'm looking at the whole galaxy. It's exciting over there, I'll go over there. Everywhere will be exciting, and so therefore we don't really need to push you to want to be where the action is right now, I think. But
yeah, and the other thing is that you know, to play multi-crew, you are not just a seat. You know, you are not just if you're the engineer, you're not just looking at a screen. You actually have to get up, run around, and fix parts of the ship. So yeah, I think, and obviously once you are multi-crewed up, you go to bed out on that ship, and you will wake up with your friends on that ship again.
So we have one final question.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming today. It's brilliant that you took the time out. Thank you. I'm an early backer, and I'm quite proud of the fact that I've got quite a few ships that are LTI'd up. But I understand that the mechanic of the game will be that there will be new models that are released of kind of different ships later on. It's something that's been sort of said that, you know, there may be the Avenger model whatever year, then, you know, the Aegis will make another model of the same Avenger, but with better things later on. That kind of gives me the impression that LTI will be almost redundant in the game if you have an out-of-date and obsolete ship. What are your thoughts on, I mean, how will that kind of work to reward the backers of the sort of very early stages?
I think what I can say is that when we're upgrading those ships, it's partly because the tech is upgrading in the game. So in 261, which we've just released, we've got the new Super Hornet, and it's a really nice upgrade from the previous Super Hornets, but fundamentally it's the same ship. So I don't know actually the answer to the question in the long-term economy. I think what we'll try and do is make sure that, you know, people who have the Super Hornet, when they do the, you know, 2948 Super Hornet, you'll be able to upgrade through to that path and keep all your LTI and what have you, just so you get the latest version. But don't hold me to that, because I think unless anyone here, we don't have any of the ship team with us to answer that question specifically. But yeah, it's more about keeping it up to date, and, you know, like BMW bringing out their new, you know, models each year. It won't be, you know, we shouldn't be devaluing your LTI. And thank you very much for being an early backer, by the way.
Hello? Oh. Have you ever thought about making the... I don't mean to, like, tell you how to make the game at all, because, like, the game is... It's amazing. It's brilliant, the way I've seen it, the way, you know, the whole gameplay and whatnot. But anyway, enough sucking up. Have you ever thought about a whole idea where the characters that each player makes can develop their own story? And, like, their stories could eventually interject with other players' stories as well, and it could be like a conflicting story or like a diplomatic situation, you know, like to end resolution, basically, fight or survive. Like.
So do you mean, like, because in the PU, everyone's story will be being told at the same time against each other. So do you mean, like, you become a great pirate lord with hundreds working?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
And then Simon goes online and he gets a job to say, you need to take this guy out. You need to,
or something like that. Or you could just be like, you could join the Great Pirate Lord if you wanted to.
Yeah. Like, all these guys might come work for you. And we'll come and get you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want to do. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
We got you, man. We got you.
Thank you so much for all the questions, everyone, and thank you so much for coming down. Can we have a round of applause for the team? And we can't wait to have them back and find out how it's all going. So thank you for coming, and thank you for enjoying the show today.
Thank you very much.